Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're tackling a massive truth about money that completely flips conventional wisdom right on its head. Most people out there believe that saving money is this luxury reserved only for the wealthy, something you do maybe after you've hit a specific salary or finally landed that big promotion. But what if I told you that saving is actually a behavioral habit, not an income level? Today, we're unpacking a really powerful framework that proves financial security starts with your mindset, not your paycheck. Okay, let's dive into this. The source material we're exploring today is an incredibly practical blueprint called the Savings Discipline. And listen, this isn't some theoretical, high-level Wall Street advice. It's a ground-level, highly actionable guide built specifically for ordinary folks who might be living paycheck to paycheck right now, particularly across emerging markets. It is literally all about building an emergency fund from absolute zero. So, picture this. I want you to imagine waking up tomorrow to some genuinely bad news. Maybe your car completely breaks down on your commute, or maybe a family member suddenly gets hit with an unexpected medical bill. What would actually happen? Be totally honest with yourself here. Would you panic? Would you be forced to borrow money at crazy high interest rates, or have to go begging friends and family? Or would you just calmly pay for the emergency because you prepared for it in advance? Your answer to that single question reveals the true strength of your financial foundation. All right, here's our roadmap for the explainer today. We'll start with the financial safety net, look at exactly why most people fail, tackle the mindset shift, learn how to build from absolute zero, map out smart budgeting, and finally, chart the stepping stones to true wealth. Let's jump right in with Section 1, the financial safety net, and why preparation absolutely matters. The core premise here is super simple. Emergencies do not RSVP. They don't send invitations. The text uses this brilliant visual. Imagine walking on a tightrope, way high up above the ground. Would you feel safer if there was a giant safety net beneath you? Obviously, right? The net doesn't stop you from walking, it just protects you if you slip. Well, an emergency fund is your financial shock absorber. It's not just about hoarding cash in the bank. It's about peace of mind, killing that background anxiety, and having actual options when life inevitably gets bumpy. But, and this is absolutely crucial, we've got to be ruthlessly clear about what an emergency actually is. A true emergency is unexpected, it's necessary, and it's urgent. We're talking sudden medical expenses, a job loss, or a critical home or vehicle repair. You have to firmly guard against the temptation to redefine your everyday desires as emergencies. A 24-hour flash sale on a brand new 4K TV? Not an emergency. A heavily discounted weekend trip to the beach? Definitely not an emergency. Mixing up your wants with real emergencies is the absolute fastest way to destroy your safety net. So, if it's so important, why do we struggle? That brings us to Section 2, why most people fail and the trap of good intentions. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how clearly it lays out the problem. Why do so many hardworking, well-meaning people fail to save? Look at side A, the trap. You get your income, you pay all your expenses, and you just sort of hope to save whatever is left over at the end of the month. But guess what? There's literally never anything left over. The fix on side B is exactly what wealthy people do. They pay themselves first. Income comes in, savings are immediately deducted, and then you live on whatever's left. It is a subtle mathematical flip, sure, but it's a massive, game-changing behavioral shift. To actually make that flip, we need Section 3, the savings mindset shift, choosing identity over income. See, saving, it's really a psychological battle in your own head. You have to actively shift your identity and start telling yourself, I am a saver. And at the very heart of this identity shift is mastering delayed gratification. This means willingly giving up a small, immediate reward today so you can secure a much, much larger reward tomorrow. Modern society is totally rigged to push instant gratification. Instant messaging, instant delivery, instant loans. The whole world is screaming, buy now. But financial success strictly and exclusively rewards patience. Which leads perfectly into Section 4, building from absolute zero, and the sheer power of small contributions. We've got to totally dismantle the I just don't earn enough to save excuse right now. The size of your very first deposit matters so much less than the simple habit of starting. Let's look at what the text calls the coffee principle. Imagine a tiny daily expense leak of just 1,000 naira. In the moment, it feels completely harmless, right? Almost totally non-threatening to your wallet. But watch what happens when we zoom out just a little bit. that tiny daily habit starts to snowball. 1,000 a day becomes 7,000 a week, which incredibly quickly turns into 30,000 a month. Suddenly, that harmless little daily leak is taking a very real, noticeable bite out of your potential financial security. And this brilliantly illustrates the big picture. Zoom out to a full year, and boom, 365,000 naira, gone, vanished to a small, non-essential daily habit. Small numbers compound incredibly powerfully over time. Now, it works against you when you spend blindly, but it works brilliantly for you when you start saving. Because, let's be honest, staring down a massive 6-month savings goal can be incredibly intimidating. So, the source recommends gamifying it. Break it into bite-sized milestones. Don't try to save 6 months of living expenses on day one. Start with a starter fund of maybe 20 to 100K. Hit that target, celebrate the win, and then move to a basic 1-month fund. Then 3 months, and eventually that ultimate resilience goal of 6 months. By breaking it down like this, you actually feel empowered to conquer just the next step right in front of you. Okay, moving to Section 5, Smart Budgeting and Protection, giving every single naira a purpose. Once you start building this fund up, you need a defense system to actually keep it. A fantastic way to do this is the simple 50-30-20 budgeting formula. And hey, think of this not as a strict restriction, but as intentional direction for your money. 50% goes to your absolute needs, housing, food, utilities. 30% goes straight to paying yourself first, so savings, emergency funds, and your goals. And that leaves 20% reserved for your wants and your lifestyle. This formula actually gives you the permission to enjoy your money today while guaranteeing your future self is funded. But to really protect that 30% savings bucket, you need a vital protection rule from the text, the 24 to 72-hour waiting period. Before making any non-essential purchase, just force yourself to wait 24 hours. For bigger ticket items, wait a full 72 hours. You'd be absolutely amazed at how often that burning emotional urge to buy just completely evaporates when you let the clock tick. It literally kills emotional spending and lifestyle pressure dead in its tracks. And that brings us to our final stop, Section 6, Stepping Stones to Wealth, moving from saver to investor. So why do we fight so hard to protect this emergency fund? Because it's not the finish line, guys. It is just the foundation. Let's move to and see how this builds across the wealth ladder. You start down at financial survival, living paycheck to paycheck. Then you secure yourself with emergency savings. That base level of stability allows you to tackle debt reduction aggressively. Once the bad debt is gone and the savings are locked in, you can confidently step into investing. That's where compound growth finally takes over, lifting you to the ultimate step, financial freedom. But remember, you cannot skip these steps without risking a major fall. I want to highlight this incredibly powerful quote straight from the text. Financial freedom is not built in a day, but it is built daily. I love that. Wealth isn't about hitting the lottery or landing one massive lucky deal. It's about the quiet, unglamorous, small, consistent actions you take every single day. The sheer discipline to pay yourself first. Which leaves us with this final thought. One day, a real emergency will arise. Or, on the flip side, an incredible opportunity will appear that requires cash on hand. When that day inevitably comes, the habits you start building right now are going to dictate your reality. Will you panic or will you be prepared? The choice is entirely in your hands, and it starts with your very next paycheck. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I highly, highly encourage you to start your emergency fund today.